The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Sonic Web Studios specializes in custom web design, app development, social networking, search engine optimization, domain registration, email marketing, online stores, and more. Since our birth, we have been designing and developing immaculate websites and providing web solutions which are a cut above the rest. As a leading web designing enterprise, we have a team of extremely talented web designers who are well-focused and have the experience of working on multiple web developing platforms such as PHP, Magento, custom WordPress, and more. Sonic Web Studios has been helping businesses of all kinds, whether big, small, established, or startup, impress their audiences with exemplary web solutions. We don't just create beautiful and functional websites. We give you a complete online solution with the main goal of enhancing your yearly revenues. We aim to give your business the online exposure and brand acknowledgement that will help you in achieving increased conversions leading to profitable sales. Call 1-800-303-3960 or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention the Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level.
Hey, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show. Thanks for tuning in to the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM. If you're interested in sponsoring my show, you can send me an email to the MikeWagnerShow@gmail.com, or you could also donate to the podcast. Just go to the Donate Listen site, and you can also donate whatever you like. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. For those who are interested, Anchor can give you everything you need in one place for free, which you can use right from your phone or computer. We got creation tools, allows you to record and edit podcasts so it sounds great, and they'll distribute the podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere. Spotify, Apple, Google, many more. And you can make money from the podcast with no minimum listenership. So download the Anchor app for free or go to Anchor FM to get started.
It's now time for the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, iTunes, Anchor FM, Radio Public, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. Mike brings you great guests and interesting people from all across the globe. So sit back, relax, and enjoy another great episode of the Mike Wagner Show.
Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition rate. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at Facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google Play, Apple, and over 35 podcast platforms. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Also follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with a wonderful gentleman based out of New York City. He's a psychic medium and a one-time police forensic consultant. He's been, he was solving famous cases, and he's been a psychic medium for quite some time. He's got an interesting story to tell as well, too. He had a near-death experience at the age of 17, and he also has some stories to tell about growing up in school, and helps with a number of foundations and talks about the afterlife and more. And live, ladies and gentlemen, from beautiful New York City. And, of course, he's thinking about what you're about to say right now, and he can tell you just about everything. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the greatest psychic mediums in the area, Anthony DiJoseph. Anthony, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Hello, and thank you so much for the shout out. New York City, Long Island, New York, and I am excited to be on the show. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's a great pleasure, too. So you've been a psychic being for quite some time. It all started in school as well, too. You had a near-death experience at the age of 17. You're also a police forensic consultant. You also solve some cases as well, too. And, you also have some methods. You talk about that and how some of your psychic mediums work and everything else. And before we get into all that, tell us how you got started.
So basically, I always knew from very young, there was something wrong with me, is what I thought. And then I kind of grew into it in a sense. And, excuse the hairdo and the redness during this quarantine, but I have been doing this privately. And from young, I would talk to people, and it just kind of started to spread. And even trying to run away from it, it's almost like there's this big welcome sign, that's over your head, and people know, living and past, they know. And I started to kind of share it, with teachers, or, also sometimes with a social worker. And that's where things started to kind of evolve. And the name just kept circulating. And we had senior citizens knocking on the door to my, my family and my mother and father. They'd be like, "What's going on? Can we talk to your son? Can we talk to your son?" And, even relocating, it just kind of never really went away. But I was always this way, and I didn't develop it, and I did try to run away from it. So it started around the age of 8 years old.
Mm-hmm. And also too, with OCD as well too. Was that diagnosed like say beforehand, or were the doctors like, is this a special case, or what was going on with it? Was it like a regular case, or was it like more complex or beyond it?
So it was diagnosed very early on. I was in first grade, and it is an OCD combined type 2 disorder with executive functioning. It does play a role in the way that the brain processes and the way that the brain actually is able to process. Then you have the sensory part, which is where we do have you were a little bit more sensitive to things than other people. If you think of Howie Mandel, that's a great way to put it. Howie Mandel has OCD, and OCD comes in various forms. So it was diagnosed very early, and it definitely plays a role.
Mm-hmm. And of course, talk about the levels of OCD. It's like, how many levels are there? It's like, from the simplest and all the way to the extreme. It's like, how many levels are there? And of course, and what are the several types of it?
Yeah, there's several types. There's, we have the DSM-6 now, the DSM-5. These are the diagnostic codes that are utilized for people that are doing interviews, for people, psychologists and psychiatrists. They will use that book. And there are various types. Some people, if you think of people that are hoarders, there are people that are hoarders. And then people with OCD are extremely sensitive. They're very sensitive to things that other people may find, just simple. An example would be, I have numerous pens. I mean, this is an example. I could actually pull them up. I have several different pens, and no two pen is used for the same thing. So OCD can grow and change in so many ways, but I do think that it's a unique disorder because it never really goes away. There's flare-ups, and then also I mentioned, with this whole thing going on, this pandemic, OCD does flare up during traumatic circumstances, but it's definitely part of your genetic makeup, for real. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. And also, too, that you start developing your psychic gift at 12 years old. And, tell us about how you end up getting that gift. And it's like, 12 years old. It's just like, how did you know that you end up with this gift?
So by the age of 8, I was talking about it. By 12 years old, I was more or less interested in understanding why were the adults kind of standoffish in a sense, and I just realized some people would say that's okay. You could tell me anything, not a big deal. Like, I'm not afraid. So I realized, it was incredible because some people were open to it, and all I had to do was just say what it is I see, hear, and feel. And then there were other people who were like, no. So there was no real development at all. I don't have to do meditation classes or any kind of, crazy stuff. It's just like, if you're a Beethoven, you are born to play that piano. That's the best way I could explain it.
Mm-hmm. So in other words, like you're saying about a Beethoven, you really don't need a teacher per se. It's like you have that gift and you try to find a way to harness it. Just like what Beethoven did. He never got taught by anybody. He just had it.
That's right. And the best thing I say is, it's great to have people that are, guiding you. But most of the people that have guided me are people who have passed away. And at 12, I was not interested in listening to adults or what they had to say. I wanted to know, what was it that people who have crossed over, what did they have to share with me? And if they had something to share with me, and I reiterate the information to an adult, how do they respond? And an example would be, when I mention something to a teacher, they have this way of looking at things and they realize, okay, this person did not get this information from any of our areas or any living person. That's when I realized there is something special about it, because it was helping people. But no teachers. The teachers are really, loved ones. I really feel that people who have crossed over, from scientists, doctors, lawyers, they're my greatest teachers. Mm-hmm. And the guiding light, source energy.
Mm-hmm. And how'd you get interested in the whole principle of crossing over?
Well, I got interested in the sense that I was afraid when I was younger, because, I've had family members cross over and, I hear they passed away and I realize, like, that doesn't make sense, So I understood, like, okay, there's something that happens. There is this wave, in a sense, where, okay, I see my family members, I'm not afraid of them, but now I see strangers, and every person has a different story or circumstance. And then I realized that when there is circumstances that can be traumatic, or sometimes these circumstances play a huge role in how they passed, and there's still issues in the physical world that are going on, I noticed that when they do cross over, it does take a different amount of time. And when I saw strangers, I realized I don't need to be afraid of them. I just need to help them.
Mm-hmm. It makes me think of the movie Coco, where it's trying to find, what happened to so-and-so in the family. And then it's like, the one guy had difficulty crossing over, but it took a lot. It made me think of the movie Coco.
It sounds terrible. I'm not sure of that movie. I know the movie The Sixth Sense. I've heard people mention Coco, but it's true. I do know that a lot of the times, they do want to take care of unfinished business, and there are different things that happen that surround their passing where it is sometimes a healthy negotiation. They often have loved ones that come and greet them and try to help them cross over, and they're like, wait, I'm not done yet. So there's these different levels where we're in a three-dimensional body, right? And when we, leave the physical body, there's this other dimension that's, two-dimensional. We're able to go through doors, no problem. Elevators, fly, travel, no problem. But that's of the physical world. And then we have not only this physical realm, where you're able to see your body, you go through this process, and you're able to see the burial and that ceremony and get that sense of peace. Then there's this higher level that really, they cross over to this higher level people call heaven, and it's incredible.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like you had that experience as well, too. We'll talk about your near-death experience, but first listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com. It's powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking for a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition way. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at Facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google Play, and over 35 podcast platforms. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Also follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with psychic medium and police forensic consultant Anthony DiJoseph. Thank you. Here on the Mike Wagner Show, just getting some thumbs up and showing some love as well, too. We talked about his experiences at an early age as well, too, and talking about the afterlife and also crossing over. And you, too, had a near-death experience at the age of 17. We're talking about death and heaven and everything else. And tell us about your near-death experience at 17 and what's it like?
It was my near-death experience at 17 was absolutely what I needed to understand that I was not cursed. I just was different. And it was almost like a sneeze. It was so quick. It was just so fast. And I left the physical body, and I realized as soon as I left the physical body, I realized like something here is not right. And there's a sense of anxiety, and I was like, there's no way that this is happening. There's no way. I had all these things I wanted to do, and there's all these things. I can't be dying. This is not the way that I'm going to go. Like, this is not going to happen. I didn't graduate yet. This is my graduating year. And then all of a sudden, yes, there is a big white light, and there was this white light. And the best way I explain it is it was so inviting. It was almost like if you imagine the most beautiful water you'd see in like the Bahamas or wherever. It's a hot day out, and that water, the minute you go in, it's like, it's that relaxing sensation. And what happened to me was I was just so captivated by this light that I had ended up crossing through it, and all of my worries and everything was like gone. I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. I saw my loved ones. I saw a lot of things that I know are controversial, but I saw my loved ones waving. I got to understand, what's my life going to be like? What really happened to me? Why am I trapped or stuck like this? And then I understood that I wasn't trapped or stuck. I understood that there was something I had to do in the physical world, and I knew that I wasn't going to be able to stay. I wanted to stay, don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. And I woke up, and my whole life changed from there. And that's kind of what was my segue into working with the legal realm and helping people with cases. And it was really just that understanding, like, no matter what you do to run away from this, this is why you are here. You have to help these people.
Mm-hmm. And before we talk about the legal cases, what happened to you at 17? It's just like, were you like hit by a car? Were you shot, or you fell or got in a fire or anything like that? It's like, how did this happen at 17?
So I was in a complicated accident, and what ended up happening was ultimately suffocation. Ooh. And it was a pretty relatively quick process, and I crossed over, and it was so unique because, there was panic. I was breathing heavily, and it was an injury that caused this ultimately. And what really was interesting was remembering it all, and I could remember every step of what took place in my physical body, in the physical world. And then there was this, like, I can't catch my breath, I can't breathe, panic, this tingliness in my body. And then everything went black. And then I just had separated from my physical body. Mm. And that's when I knew I was gone. So it was a unique experience.
And you talked about crossing into the other realm as well, too. You saw your family, friends, neighbors saying hi and everything else. Was there anyone else that you did not know that came into the picture, or like, say, a higher being, an angel, a saint, or even like, say, God, Jesus, Allah, or anybody like that? Did another figure come into that play, or was it just your family, friends, and neighbors, and then you went back to the physical world?
That's the best question right there. Absolutely. My answer is yes, 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 and yes to all of those. And what was so interesting was it was absolutely the opposite of what anyone could picture, write about, or imagine. I mean, there are some similarities you see in movies, but there was what we call angels, gods, saints. There were people that were strangers. I mean, all different walks of life, you know, and it was so cool because it was cool. It was a little bit upsetting. Then it was also somewhat odd to think that this place exists and we nobody here in this life could really understand it unless they went through it. And it's really it's beautiful there. But there is a higher being, and the angels do exist. And they may not look like all these wings. They may look a little different. When they speak to you, they may speak to you differently. It's just absolutely remarkable. So, yeah.
It does sound like it's amazing. And how do they speak to you? And what do they say?
The interesting thing is the way that if you think of the way that you count to 5 in your head, or you count to 10, or you do your ABCs, you hear that voice in your head. And that's what it's like to speak to spirit. That's what it's like to speak to, sorry about that.
That's okay. Maybe they want you to order pizza or something. So
that's true. That can happen.
But it could be a spirit too. You never know. So
yeah, I'm in the dedicated area, the room. They do speak to you in a sense where they could be smiling. Angels, spirits, loved ones, they could be smiling and their mouth may not be moving at all, but you can hear them just as if you are counting to 5 or you're singing your ABCs in your head. So it's really telepathy in a sense. It's just incredible.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like it too. I don't know if you remember watching a TV show called Touched by an Angel with Dilla Reese, and there was also Ghost. That was back in '91 with Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore, and it had the angel-like figures. Now, was exactly that you encountered was similar to almost like Touched by an Angel and Ghost, or was it just something just a bit different?
I think Ghost did a really, really good job. I think that was probably the closest I could say from anything I've seen. I've seen, I haven't seen a lot. I don't watch a lot of television and all of that stuff, but Ghost was very close. Some things are different, but Ghost was very close. And I love Whoopi Goldberg. She's incredible. Yeah.
Oh, that's a big whoopee on that one too, I'll tell you.
He was hysterical in the movie.
Oh my gosh. And of course, all this also brought you to being a police forensic consultant and solving cases. We'll talk more about that. But first, listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking for a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition way. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at Facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google Play, Apple, and over 35 podcast platforms. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Also follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with psychic medium and police forensic consultant Anthony DiJoseph here on the Mike Wagner Show, talking about how he got his gifts at an early age and talking about his near-death experience in great detail. And also, this experiences had led you to being a police forensic consultant. And tell us all about that and how'd you get involved with the police?
So at the age of 17, I had that near-death experience, and there was some, legal stuff that did surround it. And the coolest thing was actually sharing my experience. And then as time went by, I had, just people in plain clothes, your regular man or woman showing up to a group reading or an audience or, private sessions. And then towards the end, they'll, approach you, they'll hand you a card, and they may ask for your help. And your card, when you look at it, it's detective, or, it'll have a title on it. And it's almost like I credit God in the universe, for bringing that to me. So it's almost like it just naturally fell into my path, if you will. That's the way I'd explain it.
And also, too, you work some of the famous cases as well, too. And what are some of the famous cases you've worked with, and how did you solve them?
So the best way I explain it is I don't solve them. It takes a team of people. I just may find this granular material that may be missing or MIA or between space and time or multi-dimensions, and I'm just a translator. So my job is to translate, and whether it's a piece of DNA, whether it is digital evidence, whatever this evidence may be, my job is to get the cutting edge facts, proof, and details on a very, 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 what I'd say, accurate way. And that accuracy plays a role in how the case will play out. So a lot of the times just translating or doing these readings, connecting with those who have crossed over, let me tell you, dead people tell it all. So there are no secrets.
Even in people's court, I'm sure it's just like, or in the court. Like that. I remember the show Quincy with Jack Klugman. He always broke in the courtroom and say, Your Honor, I've got the evidence. I got the evidence. And I can imagine maybe a dead person coming in and goes, wait, I can tell you this.
Exactly. And what's even funny is, there's famous cases, big names. One of them that's a big favorite for me is, yes, these people, they have a big name, but we're all the same, no matter where we come from. We're all the same, and fame is an illusion. It's an illusion. It's something of the physical world. And the funniest thing is that I had no idea I was talking to a famous person. Some names are common names. I had no idea until the session was over. And they will flat out say, like, you took the deed to my house. You did not do the right thing. Like, they will tell you. And it's so interesting because a lot of the times somebody like John Valentine, who is incredible, big shout out to him, and a big shout out to Jamie Bayot. That's her uncle. I ended up doing a reading for this man, and ironically, I connected with this energy of a man who passed, and I had no idea what he meant when he said, like, I have your guitar, and I'm sending it back. And the guy was like, okay, and there's somebody who passed from, a suicide, and he was incarcerated. Well, a week later, after the reading, somebody sent Mackie Feary's guitar to John Valentine.
Oh, my goodness.
I bought it in a pawn shop, and it was his way of apologizing about the guitar and saying, like, I will return this guitar to you. And the guy was, all the way in Hawaii, and, John Valentine's a really, really nice guy, and they're all well known. They're related to Bruno Bayot, and people know him by Bruno Mars, but nobody really understood. We didn't know the whole story or the premise until after the guitar was mailed and why this person was saying, I'm sorry. And it turns out that guitar was actually a gift that John gave Mackie Feary. And he ended up having a drug issue, and he ended up selling the guitar. And that bothered him. And ultimately, these facts, these details come out. And then you have criminal situations where ultimately there is a perpetrator or there is a victim that just needs, people call it justice. I don't like to say that because it sounds like revenge in a way. But sometimes they just need this proof and the clarity that actually helps cut the case. And it's a privilege to be able to do it. And I give all of the credit to God and the universe, because there's no way I could come up with those things.
Mm-hmm. And how about the unsolved cases that are in the U.S.? It's like, besides the locals, like the national ones, how Marilyn Monroe actually died, or did O.J. Simpson kill Nicole Brown and her boyfriend, and some of the other unsolved cases like JonBenet Ramsey? It's just like, what would you say that what actually caused those deaths and who did it based on that?
That's my all-time favorite, because I hear cases like you mentioned. I have a little bit of background on them. I don't know a lot because as crazy as this sounds, I don't go on the internet that much. I'm not a big fan of a lot of television. But I am aware that Marilyn's passing, JonBenet's passing, they're all suspicious circumstances. And what I would say is that there are really, really good people out there. Their profession is in linguistics, meaning they're a wordsmith. They can bend any words. They can justify anything. So the truth is, it's between person to person, the game of telephone, where pieces of the case get lost. And what we really have is the spirit of that person that tells us the story. And the best way I'd like to put it is that Marilyn's story, the story connected with OJ, JonBenet Ramsey's story, every one of them are unique like a fingerprint, and it's beyond, to me, I believe it's an easy call. I would say that I would have to definitely review it, but for me, I think most people can take a look and say, did the glove stretch? I mean, really.
Or does his shoe fit? Or as Johnny Cochran said, if it don't fit, don't acquit. That was his famous words that got OJ the hook.
It's the exculpatory evidence. The exculpatory evidence is evidence that you can say the case, there's no way. I mean, exculpatory is evidence that is earth-shattering. It's the evidence that, anybody on the stand, depending on their position, anybody who hears it, everyone is going to jump. So I say that there is more than enough evidence in a good amount of cases. OJ's case in particular, there was more than enough evidence to convict him. For me, I am not a lawyer. I am not a doctor. I know them all very well. I work with lots of them. But for me, when you look at this case, I feel like just a regular Joe Blow and Jane Doe and John Doe could easily say, come on, did this really just happen? A glove? I mean, come on. And then your hand's all swollen and the glove doesn't fit. So that case I hear a little bit about, and I do think from lawyer to lawyer, person to person, the political connections, people do sometimes get away with it, but sooner or later, it'll ricochet back, and that's how you end up with the law of the universe. What you put out will come back to you.
And of course, the whole thing about the Gucci shoes as well, too. It was an obvious size 8, but, the question is, did it actually fit him? Was it the right shoe, or was just OJ playing dumb? That's another question.
It's right. And that's the thing where I do see, I talk to people from different walks of life, whether it's the real estate realm, whether it's medical realm, whether it is just the legal realm, or whether they are normal people coming for a regular reading. Every person who has a story, it's the way they perceive it. When they share that story with somebody else, they now interpret that story. The way that they digest it, if you will, it has to digest, and it's interesting because some facts you can't break. You can't break them. You can't bend them. And if OJ's case didn't catch up with him until now, let's say he was in trouble, which he was in trouble for some kind of petty larceny, something to that effect. What I find interesting is no matter what you do, I hear these words often. Even in the real estate business, people don't want to tell the truth, and they'll have me check out a property to see what's going on. People don't want to tell the truth, but I'll hear these words. dear Lord, spare me. And it's not even, to me, it's not even shocking anymore. It used to be. And God is a loving, merciful God. It's a synonym for the law. Dear law, spare me. It's the laws of the universe, and it will come back to you. So I do think this situation, as much as there's information that's missing with OJ, with Maryland, with the Benet Ramsey case, I do think that somehow, some way, we may not see the justice, or we may not see that, careful balance, but it happens.
Mm-hmm. You also talked about being involved in real estate agents, checking houses and everything. And how often do you get called to check on houses for possible spirits tied to murder and crime cases? And what do you do there?
So some of them, I'll give you an example. The one that came in, was it last night? I think it was it might have been last night. The one last night was in regards to a regular home, a residence. The other one was in regards to commercial property. And a lot of the times the questions and the situations, they're different. Sometimes it's tenants are uncomfortable. Sometimes there was a crime, or sometimes they're real estate agents or people that are curious to know what's going on with this property, that there's so many issues in selling it, and how could we fix it? So the best way to work with a property is to actually recreate the energetic frequency on that property. So a series of prayers, also understanding, yes, there's things like feng shui, balancing the energy out. I don't do that, but what I do is I make sure that the property, I sweep it, and it's like layers, so it unfolds. So you have the dirt. You get the story of what happened in the land just by placing your hands in the dirt. Then you check the property, and you see what has gone on in the property and the actual structure, what's going on there. Then you have the people that were in and out and the history of that structure. What I do is I pray, and as I sweep through and uncover a lot of what took place there, that's when I understand how do we handle it. And it's a purification and attunement process. That's really what I do there. Mm-hmm. And I get the story of what happened, what truly happened, and what should we do with this property is the guidance sometimes people want. Sorry to cut you off.
No, it's okay. And this thought came up as well, too. How often do you get asked to get involved with the paranormal, like with ghosts, communicating with ghosts? Like, say, you go in a house in the 1920s, like, say, a family got murdered, and there's like these ghosts, that get, that are still there from like 1920s and 1930s and all that. How often do you get called to investigate the paranormal?
The paranormal, I do have a lot of people that reach out, and they are, I'd say, quite a few times a month. I'd say at least 5 or 6 times a month. And people are sometimes uncomfortable. And then they also have this idea of like ghost hunters, that kind of thing. I feel like the people that call for paranormal activity, and I do hear them, from all over the island, Florida, California, New York, New Jersey, all over, Pennsylvania. A lot of the times the remedy is simple, but also the paranormal, where you have these ghost hunters and you have these things, sometimes it can make things worse. And sometimes they've had, paranormal people at their property, and it's only made things worse. So my job is to kind of help really bridge that gap and really bring the peace and healing that both sides need. Mm-hmm. So pretty often there's a lot of activity.
And what's the most difficult case that you ever encountered when it comes to when it comes to what you're doing, especially in crime cases and in court? What was the most difficult case you ever had to deal with?
There's one case that I'm looking at this picture right now. There's one case of a man who just disappeared. When I tell you disappeared, he disappeared. And the only evidence that we had to kind of say that maybe there was more to how it happened, and it was suggestive that a contemporary, like his wife, was involved. The only evidence was his car at a train station. And this gentleman, when I tell you disappeared, he was gone from mass surveillance. His car was found at a train station, and nobody can prove whether he was actually murdered. They just called him a missing person that had ran cold. His family had hid as much as possible, and they gridlocked the system. And that was the most difficult case for me. And I'm 27 years old now. I was 17 years old, and I remember searching for this man high and low all around my area in Long Island. And I still, till this day, I think I know what happened. I think other people have an idea of what happened, but sooner or later it will come out. Will anyone be able to find him? Maybe, maybe not. And I feel like sometimes they just don't want to be found, and they've crossed over and they've left this life. It's so interesting because that was a really good question. I wasn't expecting that. Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, you get so involved in your work, you're so good at and everything. And of course, with this whole disappearance thing. And what are your thoughts on aliens and UFOs that get involved with, taking people, disappearing and everything like that?
There are definitely stories that I did not believe. I mean, that was something I did not believe. And for me, when you're young, if you're 8 years old and you're now 27, I've talked to a lot of people in readings. If it's coming up and adults have had experiences and people in a reading, it comes up. I know that they are real. I haven't personally had any kind of, unique experience with a UFO or with extraterrestrials, but I know they're real because spirit brings it up. And when somebody hears about it and you see their face and, they're like, well, there's no way anyone would know that. And my father did work in the lab and there was studies, so it does exist. But I often wonder, why do people disappear with these UFOs? And when I sat down and began to pray and I began to ask the other side, I realized that we are all connected. There's multiple dimensions and layers in the universe and different vibrations, if you will. Why do they disappear? I never really got the answer. And I do feel almost that it's a shame, because we all wonder when somebody disappears, what happens next? It's very hard because you never truly have the answer. And a UFO is a hard one because there is several people that I've spoke to. There are several people that have had experiences that were frightening, and a loved one did disappear. And I wasn't able to help. And their loved one had crossed over, but it's almost like limited information on certain things. And it's like I don't access any kind of communication with those entities, but they are aware of us. They do watch us. They are real.
It does. And of course, there's a lot of stories about it. And of course, it could happen one day as well, too. And how often do you get asked about predicting the future and what's going to happen later in 2020, 10 years from now, 15, 20. And if you get asked that, it's like, what can you predict, like, say, later in 2025, 10, 20 years from now?
I would say I'm asked about predicting the future not that often. I mean, people will joke and be like, you got the lottery numbers, they'll joke. They do, and I won't
ask that. No,
never. I won't gamble. I do know that you can see these things. There is several stories, I think, in Australia about psychics that were able to actually get the lottery. So I don't do too much future, but when I do, I'm looking for things that are not interchangeable by free will. So I typically wait for a specific day throughout the year, and I sit down with, of course, a pen and paper, maybe a fountain pen, maybe a ballpoint, So I'll sit down.
Pencil.
Oh, the pencil. I feel like I could feel the scraping against the paper. I don't know. I think the lead pencils, it depends.
Oh, okay, sorry about that. I'm not going to show you a pencil again. Sorry about that.
Is it a number 2 pencil?
Number two. Ah, yes, it is. Although it is too small, yeah, it is a number 2. Oh, I'm still trying to work it. Yeah, okay. You got the idea.
I got in trouble once in school for not writing with a pencil because the thing was chewed on. And this teacher sent me down to the dean because I would not write with this pencil. Somebody had chewed all over this thing.
Oh, my God.
I mean, when I say they had chomped on it, okay? And if you have OCD, it might be a little finicky. And she sent me down to the dean, said I was being defiant, this, that, the other thing. And finally, later on, we had a meeting, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And the meeting with my parents, with a psychologist, was like, you're asking a kid who's got serious OCD, won't touch raw chicken, to write with a pencil that somebody else chewed on, and you won't let him use his own pencils or pen? But yeah, pencils, definitely. People are sensitive, and your writing tool is the most powerful tool, a pen or pencil, anything you can write with, because what you can write is between space and time. It's like a photograph. It does not age, nor does it change, but it goes out to the universe.
That is amazing. I have to start drawing some pictures and, just show them to the universe. And, that's their Instagram and such. I think that's a really good point. I like that.
Yes, it is. It's their, Kodak moment. So what you write down, it does go out there. And it's incredible to see, things like the future. What bothered me the most about seeing the future, just an example would be all of the good you see, the bad that you see outweighs it all. So I would do everything I could to pray away the visions that I do not want to see. And I'm very lucky that I don't see as much unless I really sit down and focus on the future. And luckily, I'm able to see just enough of what I need to for the future. But I think that the future, it's interesting. You have things that people can change. I may decide to drive to the bank right now, or I may decide to go buy a cup of coffee and a pack of cigarettes, and then I'm going to get lung cancer, if you will, right? That's free will. I may go to the bank, pay bills or something of that nature, right? And I may go drink coffee. I may do one or the other, or I may do both. So there are things that are interchangeable by free will. And that's what's incredible about the future is it's limitless. The future is limitless, and people, it's hard for them to kind of understand. When we're looking for future information, there's a trade-off. You want what's written down in stone, like fate. This is written in stone. Or something of possible paths this person may take. Or the biggest probability that comes up with a future thing. And I'm very skeptical with mediums, psychics, predictions, and I do know fortune telling in New York State is a Class A misdemeanor. You can face up to 90 days in jail. So people have these, oh yeah. And that's when people...
That reminds me, I should not ask anybody when the Cubs are going to win the World Series. I should not ask that. That was solved in 2016 after 108 years.
And it's true. And I do think that the biggest thing is, yes, fortune telling is the process of another person conning somebody out of money and foretelling future events or altering an event or spells, and that's actually a crime. So it's interesting. And then also to do something for the future and to look into the future, you must have the clear intention of what you are doing, accessing these records. And these records, I call them Christ consciousness records, or God source energy, light source energy, source energy. Accessing these records are extremely sacred, and you must have a clear intention, and it must be something that does not break spiritual law. So it's a very deep subject. It must be for the highest good, to help mankind.
Mm-hmm. And that's a very interesting point too. You also sit down one-on-one with your clients, and they tell you what they're experiencing and everything, and you provide feedback. And of course, you also do telephone with conversations, consulting, even video. Not like like you and I are chatting as well too. It's like, what would you get from me just by talking to you? Like, say if we had a consultation.
So there's private readings like this. We would be on Skype, and during a Skype session, some people would prefer a telephone session, but during a telephone session, people prefer telephone because they don't want you to see their face. And on Skype or on FaceTime, it's nicer because you do see each other. But on a session like this, if we were talking, my job would be to tell you to write down on paper every question you have, the people you wish to hear from who've crossed over, fold it up in a piece of paper. Don't show anyone. Don't show me. Don't tell me nothing. If you have jewelry on, cover it up. If you have tattoos, cover it up. Then I would get on with you, and I would start to connect with your loved ones and tell you what it is they are showing me. And it can be memories. It should be everything on that paper should be answered. But then there's additional things that they give us to really prove they're in communication. And that's what happens during a private session, telephone reading or Skype reading. And then consult, like you mentioned, that's usually for troubleshooting a case, a property, a medical disposition. That's when a consultation happens, and that's really to help a person overcome that obstacle. And it's an intuitive assessment and what steps we need to take to actually make sure that they overcome that obstacle the correct way.
That is fantastic. And of course, a couple of things with Anthony DiJoseph, psychic medium here on the Mike Wagner Show. Also, police forensic consultant. You've been fantastic. Just a couple of things here. Who do you consider your biggest influence in your career?
I would say my mother and father, because they were both so opposite. And my father was very skeptical. My mom believed in, they would say, don't tell anybody, just be normal. And then later on, they saw how much it helped. And I feel like they really helped me understand that it's okay. It's okay to be this way. And they've helped me a lot.
That's fantastic. What's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
The best advice is, you mean give to anybody that's like this?
Or just in general. It can be your profession or, just life in general or anything.
The best advice I would tell everybody, number one, time is something that is robbed more than anything. Your time. Your time is so precious. And no matter where you go, you can't buy it. So the wisest words I would have for you is your loved ones, the people you care about, everything you do in this life, in the now. Don't worry about what happened in the past. Don't continue to relive it. Worry about now and make sure you understand there is no rewind button. And share your kindness with everybody, especially those you love.
That is fantastic. Once again, Anthony DiJoseph, psychic medium, police forensic consultant here on the Mike Wagner Show. Big thank you for your time. You've been fantastic. Love to have you back on sometime in 2020 and beyond. And before we go, tell us about your upcoming projects. What's your website? How do people contact you? Where can people just check you out?
You can check me out on Facebook, on Instagram. There are, a few websites written up with what is that called? Interviews, that kind of thing. I never really did any, domain with a McDonald's menu of readings. So I just have a regular social media, and I wanted it to be more of a personal experience. So you can reach me you can just Google Anthony DiJoseph. You can look me up and reach out to me through there, and my office and team will take care of it. As far as my projects, I am working on a wellness center, and I am working on putting together a documentary about breaking the stigma behind psychics and mediums, and what is a hypersensitive. And there are people that are super gifted, but they walk in plain sight.
That is fantastic. Once again, Anthony, a big thank you for your time. You've been fantastic. Learned a lot from you. Looking forward to having you again soon. Do us a favor. Keep this up to date. We'd love you to have back in 2020 and beyond.
Yes, we'll do some readings. We'll demonstrate for live callers, and it would be beautiful to come back again. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to The Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, Anchor FM, Radio Public, and themikewagnershow.com. Please support our program with your donations at themikewagnershow.com. Join us again next time for another great episode of The Mike Wagner Show.